Tommy Schnurmacher Podcast. Listen to the show live, weekdays 9 to noon on CJAD 800.
TrendsJournal publisher Gerald Celente is not shy, but I've never seen him like this before. Why is he more terrified now than he has been in the last 30 years? We're going to ask him. And you can ask Gerald Celente any questions you have, 514-790-0991. Star Talk, text your comment to 514-800. Gerald, how are you? What's going on? What are you so scared about?
Well, I'm very concerned about the drumbeats of war that keep getting louder and louder, particularly in the Middle East. And it's coinciding as well with the economic collapse that's happening throughout Europe and affecting much of the world. There's slowdowns in every country, virtually, China, India, and the U.S., of course, and Europe are the biggest consumers of Chinese and other cheap labor country products. So what's happening in Syria, and now as you go to websites such as Haaretz, the Israeli newspaper, and you could continue to read about how there was more and more talk about attacking Iran. And if the United States or Israel attacks Iran, I'm saying this is the beginning of World War III. There's no end in sight, and what's going on since the invasion of Libya, you can see the destabilization that's happening in other North African countries, of course, as well as Syria. So it's really racing out of control. Plus, of course, they cannot solve the European debt crisis by creating more debt. And then you're looking at a lot of social unrest happening around the world, whether it's in Spain with the Indignados or Greece, and just keep going on. Now I think today, was it Slovenia, one of those countries, their banking system is failing. So it's reaching a critical mass right now, and I haven't felt this way since in December 14, 2000. You could go to our website, it's there. USA Today ran our top trends for 2001, and the headline read, 2001 won't be our year, Trends here says, and I warned that Americans wouldn't be safe at home or abroad. And, of course, that had to do with U.S. foreign policy, not the line that they hate our freedom and liberty. So I kind of have that feeling now.
And what's going on in Syria? I mean, what do you think the world should do? Is there anything you think the world should do to get involved?
Well, for example, there are other alternatives, and we've written about them other than uranium and nuclear, and one of them being thorium. But the industry is fighting that. And whose business is it if Iran has a nuclear weapon? And, I mean, how many does Israel have? 400? They're estimated. How many does the United States, the UK, France, India, Pakistan, North Korea, China? I mean, So, I mean, to say that, you're going to bomb a country because you don't like what they have, I mean, the fact of the matter is, Iran hasn't attacked anybody, and I don't remember when.
Now, but I mean, some people are in favor of that attack, and many people are not, both in the U.S. and in Israel. Aren't many of the comments in Israel saying that they shouldn't do it because the repercussions would be too horrifying for all concerned?
Yes. A lot of and we've written about that extensively, is coming from, former Mossad and other intelligence agencies and military saying not to do it. But what you have is a situation where the politicians are in control. And you know how I feel about politicians. They range between sociopaths and psychopaths. And this guy Netanyahu, he has a 60% disapproval rating right now. And I've seen it before. I remember when Bill Clinton was, wag the dog. Every time he'd get in trouble with Monica Lewinsky, it was bombs over Baghdad. They continually do this. It's this wag the dog scenario. So I'm concerned about that. And again, Syria is racing out of control. And the hypocrisy going on, and, again, it's none of my business what goes on over there. But when you look at this baloney about, bringing democracy to Syria, and then you look at the countries that are arming them, that wonderful little kingdom called Saudi Arabia. That's different. Kings aren't dictators, And that other wonderful place, Qatar, the Emir. No, Emir's not a dictator. They don't have any rights over there. And then Bahrain is exploding. Bahrain is blowing up. It's not making the news. That whole area. within Egypt. You just saw what happened yesterday on the Israeli-Egyptian border. So that's what I'm so concerned about.
We're going to continue our conversation. Your questions for Trends Journal publisher Gerald Celente, 514-790-0991, Star Talk. Text your question or your comment to 514-800-1015.
The Tommy Schnurmacher Show on CJAD 800.
Your questions for Gerald Celente, Trends Journal publisher, on the line with us. 514-790-0991, Star Talk. Text your comment to 514-800. This text just came in, Gerald. It says there's $70 trillion sitting in bank accounts all over the world, sitting idle. This means 10 grand for every man, woman, and child on Earth. Ask your guest if he has any ideas as to how this money could be used for the benefit of society.
Well, I don't know if that's the answer to the problem. It's so much greater than that. It's the lack of education that's going on. It's as I said, nothing is going to change to me until the individual changes, and this is dumping money on a problem. And I'm not preaching or moralizing. I'm just saying it's the way I see it. When people have the courage and dignity, respect, and integrity and passion to live their lives the way they're meant to, then things will change. But they say that the fish rots from the head down. Look at the LIBOR scandal. What is it? That affects $700 trillion of derivatives and stocks and interest rates, mortgages, car loans, student loans, etc. And it's out of the news. It made the grand total, by the way, the LIBOR scandal made the grand total of 12 minutes of broadcast news in the U.S. Now, so what I'm saying, Tommy, is that it's immorality. Wars are going on. Countries are starting wars against other countries. People don't care about them. Wars are going on in Afghanistan as we continue to speak. No one seems to care. So to me, it's a much bigger issue.
Okay, would you also say, Gerald, that I've noticed that the left and right have sort of coalesced on this business about that the banks basically have gotten into this deal where they make very risky bets, keep the profits if they win, and have taxpayers pick up the tab if they lose. It's both the left and right saying the same thing. That's pretty new, isn't it?
Well, yes, but look at the legislation that's been passed to stop it. They didn't put back in the Glass-Steagall Act, which was put in after the after the crash of '29 to prevent the banks from doing this. And look at where the money's coming from that's flowing into both campaigns in the U.S. And look at the people that are in charge of the Commodities Future Trading Commission. And look who the other people are in Treasury and on and on. It's the same gang.
Right.
I mean, what's the guy that's the head of the Commodities Future Trading Commission? Gary Gensler? Oh, where's he from? Oh, Goldman Sachs gang. I guess that's why John Corzine, the guy from MF Global that can't find $1.6 billion, never got brought up on charges. Yeah, they could talk about it all they want. They're not doing anything.
Think about it. Now, I had an economic analyst on DAS who joins us regularly, Gerald, and he said that too big to fail has also become too big to jail. Is that what's happening? Someone just sent me a text. Why weren't MF Global executives subject to criminal prosecution?
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. It's the greatest bank robbery in world history, and the banks are doing the robbing. How much more proof does anybody need? Their hands off them. No, you didn't see one head on Wall Street roll. I mentioned to you the LIBOR scandal. They rigged the interest rate game. The banks are making a ton of money by knowing which way they're going to go, placing their bets. And you got a guy like Diamond over there, Robert Diamond from Barclays. He goes, "Oh, I'm sorry," and he resigns and walks away worth over $100 million. The word justice, Tommy, is misspelled. It's Justus, Us. It's called fascism, by the way. The merger of state and corporate powers.
Okay. All right. If more questions for Gerald Celente, 514-790-0991, Star Talk. Text your comment to 514-800. While there hasn't been that much coverage of that interest rigging scandal, Gerald, that's true. Plenty of coverage about the Olympics. Do you have anything to say about London paying for the Olympics, Britain spending money on that as the European economies crumble?
You cannot have a clearer example of corporate control and mass political stupidity. I don't have to look at England. Try this one on for size. Go back to the 2004 Olympics. Where were they held? Hey, couldn't have been Greece, could it? Oh, that financially secure country wasting billions of dollars? It's the same thing. You know, they say the only thing you learn from history is nothing.
We're going to continue our questions for Gerald Celente, 514-790-0991. Star Talk. Text your comment to 514-800. Two pretty shocking texts coming in. I'll share both of this with Gerald Celente. You can join the conversation, of course, if you have any questions for him of what's going to happen in the next couple of years. 514-790-0991. Star Talk. Text your question if you'd rather do that. You can text it to 514-800. You're listening to Tommy Schnurmacher on CJAD.
The Tommy Schnurmacher Show on CJAD 800.
TrendsJournal publisher Gerald Celente, my guest, 514-790-0991. A couple of texts coming into 514-800. Gerald, a person sent two texts. I'll read you both of them. Tell me what you think. One says, if there's no profit, it's not worth doing, and that's how the world works, and it's called the golden rule. He has the gold, makes the rules.
Well, that's the way it is, right? But then there's the other golden rule, do unto others. And that's what it's all become. It's the bottom line, and it's the bottom line mentality. And by the way, it has nothing to do with capitalism or socialism. It's just the ism of greed, and that's the way it is today. You screw over anybody to make as much as you can, and it's who do they promote and pump up? The financiers. So yeah, no, it's.
Okay, next text. It says, please ask Mr. Celente, whatever happened to H.R. 1207? Is Ron Paul going to make a dent in the Federal Reserve and nail Bernanke?
No, it'll go nowhere. It's just kind of like they had they were looking into silver manipulation in the markets, and they decided that there wasn't any. They only looked so far. No, he's not going to have any effect on it at all. It'll be a cover-up, a whitewash. It'll look like nothing.
Over a decade ago, you said in 2001 it would be no walk in the park. Looking ahead next 10 years as far as the economy is concerned, what do you see?
You're already starting to see a lot of the banks, for example, putting in place a system ready for when countries start jumping out of the euro because they can no longer do it. We're going to start. The only way I see it changing is a whole restructuring, and less is more in the sense that countries need to do more internally. And that means more manufacturing at home, more buying at home. The whole ruse of global trading is just that. It only enriches the multinationals. So to me, you're going to see a great breakdown of the multinational system. And, things are born, they grow, they die, reach maturity, old age, and that's it. A new cycle. And I can see a new cycle where you're going to start seeing people going back to what worked before at a better level. So, for example, there aren't a lot of products that you cannot manufacture in Canada that Canadians can't buy and trade among themselves. You don't have to get them made in another country. So you're going to start seeing more and more of that because all of the industrialized nations' standard of livings are going to continue to decline as they outsource virtually everything they can to cheaper labor countries. So you're going to start seeing a backlash.
Now, what happens is if we stop doing that, what's going to happen in those countries that aren't getting all the business from us anymore?
They have to deal with their own issues. And by the way, when you look at China with 1.2 billion people, they have a million problems. If they're not selling stuff, they have riots because they're not making things and they're not paying people, and they have a lot of unemployed. So they have to deal with their own issues. And every country is faced with the same thing. You're looking at the United States, where people all around the world used to want to come to make it rich. And now the gap between the rich and the poor in the United States is the widest of any of the industrialized nations. So I think there's going to be, and by the way, when I'm talking about war and what's going on, I've mentioned this before, the timeline and the parallels is striking in the sense that you had the crash of 29, the Great Depression, currency wars, trade wars, World War. You have the same thing now, the Panic of '08, the Great Depression, there's depressions going on. You have currency wars, you have trade wars, and now we're moving to World War. So I think there's going to be a real restructuring.
Thank you for joining us. Always great talking to you.
Listen to the Tommy Schnurmacher Show live weekdays 9 to noon on CJAD 800 and CJAD.com. D.com. 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 D.com.